lavender mead. Oh, lavender there. There. Hello homebrewers, and welcome to my channel. So today we are making some metheglin, otherwise known as spiced mead. They have many different names for mead, but basically it's a mead that you add spices to, which is pretty cool. So what we're going to be using today to make our metheglin is lavender. Smells so good. Now this is English lavender, because, well, I'm in Britain and this seems to be the thing that most people plant outside and grow. French lavender would be awesome as well. It's a bit more mild, but at the same time, I have English lavender, so that's what we're going to use. So a metheglin, or a spiced mead, which I'm just going to call it mead from now on, basically it's got a bit of a honey flavour. The honey is the sugar content, it's got a bit of honey taste, but it's mainly the spices that you add into it. So since it's going to mainly be lavender, which is going to be my flavour, with hints of honey in the background, I'm going to use 1 jar of my awesome set honey that I've used in all of my caramel mead videos. Lovely stuff, because it has more flavour. But at the same time, I don't want it to be too honey flavoured. I just want a nice mild flavour. So I'm using El Cheapo honey that you saw in the value mead video, which I'll stick the link up there because it's nearly done. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing this. It should have an alcohol percentage somewhere around 11 or 10%. I'm not trying to make it super strong, but at the same time, I want it to be tasty. So I'm going to go and put my set honey in a hot water bath, since this contains pretty much no moisture and it's like concrete when it's cold. And while I'm waiting for this to warm up, I'm going to go through and take off all the heads, all the little flowers of the lavender, because, you know, I'm a sadist like that. So I spent some time removing off most of the green. I've left some on there. The reason that I do this is, well, dandelions. Dandelions have the green bits which are full of that bitter sap, though it's not really that prevalent in other things. It's just kind of a habit I've got into, using wild stuff. Hope you understand. So, plus, it's a good practice to keep, so why not do it? So what I've done is I've got my honey in some hot water, loosening up, and I've also measured out 10 grams of lavender, put them in a little tub and everything. So what I'm going to do is make a lavender tea, which we're going to be adding in. So 10 grams goes in. If you want to be exact, it was 10.2 grams. So now I'm just going to grab some boiling water and add it in. Some water. Smells good. So because we're not going to be caramelizing any honey whatsoever, we just want it to have the flavors of lavender and a little bit of honey. We don't need to boil anything or simmer anything, but what we do need to do is mix the honey. The pan has got a lid. Now the easiest way to mix in honey is with hot water. If you ever tried using cold water to mix honey together, it takes forever. So fortunately, we don't have that to worry about, so in a pan it goes. It's just because putting this directly in a fermenter, either glass or plastic, with hot water / boiling water, is going to, well, shrink it or break it. And since we're going to use boiling water, it sterilizes if there's any possible infections, but honey preserves itself pretty damn well. This is why preheating set honey is such a good task. In you go. Come on, you can do it. Not like concrete. Check that. So rinse this round. And I get to lick the spoon. I like licking the spoon. So you may have noticed I haven't sterilised anything apart from my demijohn, which is in the background, sterilising in some bleach and water solution. This is because we're using boiled water. We use boiled water for the lavender tea, and I'm going to be using boiling water to mix in this honey. And funny enough, it scorches the spoon if I don't pour it everywhere. So now I'm just going to dissolve this honey in water. Stirry, stirry spoon. just like Mama used to make. So we've used boiling water to make sure everything is sterilized. Our lovely wildflowers, our lavender. That smells really good. It's got a more mellow lavender taste, where this is more in your face, but at the same time, I think that's going to be pretty good. We've got our honey, which we used boiling water to, funny enough, sterilize and scorch the pan, and also mix the honey together. I added in a bit of hot water into these jars just to remove the last of the honey, because I can't get my fingers in the jars because I got fat hands. So now I'm going to go rinse my fermenter, my 5-litre fermenter, also my hydrometer, and a funnel. So I'm just going to go do that. I'll be right back. Now for the fun bit. So I am using a 5-litre water container because it has a big wide neck. It holds 5 litres, and I am going to be adding in these lovely, oh, it is purple. I'm going to be adding in these lovely little bit of lavender. So I want to make sure that it doesn't puke everywhere. Obviously, if you're using a proper demijohn, 4.5 litres, leave a bit of space in there, because it will get clogged and puke, as has been proven by my sealing. So to get this in, I'm going to be using my kettle. Since this was already sterilized through boiling, I'm putting in cold water to counteract the still fairly hot sugar. Honey. Yeah, that's the word. Honey. See, check that. I can even say it. So I am going to pour in my lavender tea. It is actually slightly purple, which is pretty cool. Lilac, I suppose. And it smells good. So I'm going to put this in first so you can kind of see. You can't really see it. Oh well, never mind. Use my sterilized spoon, cook it in. If you're planning on doing this in a demijohn, like a proper one, maybe make a really strong infusion. Maybe use like 28 grams of this stuff, of the lavender, and strain it out after. But it does have a slightly purple tinge to it. And even in this amount of water, it still has a very strong lavender smell, which is good. So now comes the bit that I will probably mess up, because, you know, I do that on a regular basis. Right, in goes hot liquid sugar. Oh, he's getting fancy. That's not actually that bad. So now I'm going to top it up to the 5-litre mark, approximately. That went better than I thought. I've topped this up using cold water. Now, I am not a great proponent of putting bits in fermenters of any description, but there are not that many in here, so I think I'm going to be able to get away with it. Fingers crossed. So I'm going to be shaking this up in a second, but I'm going to be adding some yeast nutrients, since why double shake? So in goes a cheeky teaspoon, and this teaspoon was sterilized with boiling water, since it also dries itself, which is really helpful, because getting things stuck to it sucks. So let's give this a shake, and let's get a hydrometer reading. That smells good. Now just make sure. Sterilized and being kept in just plain cold water. So the hydrometer is reading approximately 11%, which is, if it ferments to dryness, I'd like to point out, which is 1.068. Oh, 66. No, I lied. I said approximately 11%. You know, I was right. 1.068. I just can't read today because, you know, I'm illiterate. Like a fool. So, unlike normal, where I would be adding in a yeast that performs neutral, like a universal wine yeast or an express wine yeast compound, I don't have any, I ran out. So instead I'm using the next best thing that I have, which is a dessert yeast, or a high alcohol yeast. It is a fairly neutral fermenting yeast. Just happens to be able to ferment to high alcohol, if you treat it right. So in goes, you don't need a lot, I'm just putting in 1/4 teaspoon on here. Some of the yeast will die, but the stuff that remains will be stronger and it will populate anyway. So stick this on, then undo it slightly. So it is on, but at the same time it's not, it's nice and loose, but it does have some bite in it. And now we're just going to leave this thing to ferment, and we're going to come back once it's finished. So that should be pretty damn awesome. So I want to know your comments on what you think this is going to taste like, because, well, it's a bit of an experiment. Plus we can also add more lavender if we need to in the end, but you've got a basis to work off if you are interested in doing this. So don't forget to comment, like I just said, rate, like, subscribe and share, and check out the other videos. Carry on homebrewing, guys. See you later.